Hello and welcome to CIBER Focus, your source for international business information. I'm your host, Tim Smith, and our guest today is Mario Rodriguez. Mario Rodriguez is the Executive Director of the Indianapolis Airport Authority, representing the award-winning Indianapolis International Airport. Under Mario's leadership, the airport has experienced record-breaking passenger traffic and announced major economic development projects in addition to being recognized as the best airport in North America and the United States year after year from many prestigious organizations. Mario is an award-winning, nationally recognized leader in aviation. He is an appointee of both the Obama and Trump administrations to the United States Department of Transportation's Committee for Aviation Consumer Protection. He has been honored with a United States Congressional Recognition conferred by Congressman André Carson in 2019 and is the recipient of one of the state's highest honors in Indiana, a Sagamore of the Wabash, which was conferred by Governor Eric Holcomb in 2018. Mario is an active community leader and board member of numerous philanthropic and business organizations such as the Indianapolis and Indiana Chamber of Commerce, the 2021 NBA All-Star Game, Visit Indy, Indiana Sports Corp, Economic Club, and the Indianapolis Indy 500 Festival Committee. He is the former board president of the Indiana Latino Institute, whose mission is to improve health and advance the education of Indiana's Latino communities. Mario is an engineering graduate of the University of Miami and has attended the Harvard Kennedy School. He is an accomplished author and speaker on issues impacting the aviation industry, and for over 30 years, he has held leadership positions in aviation around the world, from Hong Kong to Indiana. Mario, thank you so much for joining me today.
Timothy, it's an honor to be with you today.
Well, we greatly appreciate your time and are excited to talk to you, so let's jump into it.
All right.
So Mario, help us understand your role as Executive Director at the Indianapolis Airport Authority, and how has it changed and how is it changing in light of the global COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay. Principally, simply put, the Executive Director of a public sector organization like the Indianapolis Airport Authority is generally the CEO. It would be the equivalent of a CEO in the private sector. So I have a board of directors. I run the organization. I have executives under me. And I personally prefer a flatter organization and a matrix type organization. You can never be a fully matrixed organization in what we do, but a hybrid matrix organization. Mm-hmm. So we work very well. We have a layer of executives. And what COVID has done, it's done, obviously, there's been a lot of disruption in the industry. It's probably the hardest hit industry of all the industry. The aviation industry has been decimated worldwide. Mm-hmm. I would expect that in the very near future, we'll see a lot of airlines seeking bankruptcy protection. Right now, Virgin Atlantic has already filed for bankruptcy protection. The smaller airlines, the smaller regional airlines, ExpressJet has collapsed entirely. But one of the things to keep in mind is that our industry is the worldwide transportation system. So it'll survive. It has to survive. Last year, I think worldwide, our transportation system moved over 9 billion people. Domestically, here in the United States, domestically, international, just the US moved over 1 billion. Mm-hmm. So it's unless Elon Musk figures out a way to beam us across the world anytime soon, people will have to get on airplanes and products will have to get on airplanes and move from point A to point B. It's part of the supply chain. It's part of our life. It's so integral in our life, we don't even think about it. Now, how it has changed is that there's been a sudden reduction in passengers. That sudden reduction has equated to a sudden reduction, an incredible reduction in revenue for everybody. So overall, what happens is that right now, it's designing a survival mode or designing a way forward to survive both as an airport Airlines are doing exactly the same thing, reducing in scope. They're retrenching in their strongest hubs. And you're going to see a contraction in the industry. As passengers come back, it'll start expanding again. So really the challenge right now, since it's really, it's not a technical problem, it's truly an adaptive issue, is to bring everybody around the table, get as many ideas as possible. You just can't slap a technical solution, wave your hands and say, we fixed the problem. The problem is so large that it's not only COVID, it's the unintended consequences that COVID is causing, which has incredible ripple effects on the economy, psychological effects on the population, sociological effects. Our lives are going to change. So we're going to have to adapt to the current situation, even after something is found, an antiviral or a vaccine. We're still going to modify the way we live because of the effects and the lingering effects of COVID, whether they're economic or whether they're psychological. So the trick, my job right now becomes more of keeping the ideas coming, filtering the ideas, and in some cases, believe it or not, coming up with the best bad idea that I can. Because in some cases, there's no solutions. So you just have to sit around and say, what is the best bad idea that we can come up with and implement and move forward with? And in most cases, I think most of my ideas right now in these type of disastrous times fall into that category.
Very entrepreneurial. I like it, and innovative, certainly. Great. Well, as I thought about questions to discuss with you today, I mean, of course, the landscape has changed, but any other opportunities you see for the airline industry, Mario, as we come out of the pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. You could always take advantage in a disaster. Never let a good disaster go by. Organizations will modify, will become more streamlined. We're having a teleconference right now, which is fantastic. We've proven the technology has always been there. It's been there for years, but it's never been really tested the way it's tested right now. People will opt to do teleconferencing in the future. In my opinion, it'll be a conversation between why can we not teleconference instead of why can we not see ourselves face to face. So our industry is going to change, and it's going to change for the better. It's going to alleviate some capacity. We're going to modify. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to be better. It's going to be more secure. Your travel experience probably will be more automated. I envision a time that you could go to security without talking to anybody or without in contact with anybody. So it's going to modify both our organizational structure here and the way you see travel, and thus modify the way we have to accommodate your travel needs. So there'll be changes, much like 9/11. COVID is transformative. So it'll transform our industry. Now, the laws of physics still apply. You have jet engines, you have wings that create lift, and there's a certain amount of people that could get on an aircraft at any given time, so on and so forth. But beyond that, the way you travel will probably look a little bit to a lot more automated in the near future. And the travel balance between business and leisure will probably shift more towards leisure and less towards business. So the airlines will have to reaccommodate how they view their profitability, because a lot of the money was made in the front of the aircraft, the business class of the aircraft. So they're going to have to re-envision how that happens. But there's a lot of airlines that have already done that. You've got Spirit Air, you've got Ryanair in Europe.
Right.
Everybody laughed at Ryanair. They're not laughing now. And we laughed at Southwest when they came out. No one's laughing at Southwest right now. So it's an evolution of how airlines look and deliver their product.
Great, thank you. So clearly an international airport is a global business. I'd love to hear from you about some of the daily challenges you face in your role.
Well, my main challenge and my main focus is to provide public value, which is a very, very large term. The only way we could deliver value to our community at large, and by the way, our community does own this asset, is to concentrate on delivering public value. And it's everything from construction, for example, delivers an incredible economic impact. So us building and maintaining this facility creates an economic impact, a positive economic impact for the community. Us sitting around and talking to the Kelley School of Business, talking to our partners in Eli Lilly, the tech sector, to find out where we need to improve lift is incredibly important. All these wonderful trips, pre-COVID, all these wonderful trips to the West Coast, that we saturated the West Coast, was directly related to our conversations with the tech sector, that they needed more connectivity for that sector to be effective over here in Indianapolis. And we connected them directly to the West Coast. And Paris, for example, the direct flight to Paris, which was the first European point-to-point that Indianapolis ever had obviously, you have the wonderful business connectivity over there all over the globe. Once you go from here to Paris, you could interline with Air France and go all over the globe. You also had something that nobody knew. GE engines and components were in the belly of the aircraft that was flying over to Europe that were going to get hung on Airbus aircraft eventually. So it had that sort of connectivity that worked very well for everything. And it's just a challenge to make sure that we provide what the community wants. That's our main focus. And then in that, we create public value or a transference of value back to the community, whether it's maintaining, for example, and I could go on and on. So part of our job is to make sure that you feel value for everything. So that's why we keep our parking rates low. That's why you could walk into the parking garage and get a free bottle of water. We have the fastest Wi-Fi in any airport in the United States without a splash page. So all this adds value to our passengers, and that's how we transfer some of our value, some of our gains back to our passengers and back to the community at large.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mario, very much. Well, speaking of value, let's talk about the economic development projects coming from the Indianapolis Airport Authority. What are they? Tell us about them, and how have they impacted our community?
We've had the economic impact of the airport itself to the community today, pre-COVID, should have exceeded over $6 billion.
Wow.
Between direct and indirect transferences. We have FedEx, which has the second largest hub in their network here in Indianapolis. It's the second largest hub in the planet. It employs thousands of people. It's doubling in size.
Interesting.
We've just helped between the state, the city, and the Indianapolis Airport. We've secured Infosys, which is a tech giant, and they're building their campus, their main U.S. campus here on property that was surplus from the airport. We've also divested ourselves of 3,600 acres that were fallow that the airport owned, and we put that back into productive use. So everything we do, everything we do has an economic impact component and a positive economic impact. Right now, this year, we've got, and that goes under the category of never waste a good emergency. This year, we got more grant dollars than ever before. So we got, just on the federal side, we got $39 million in grants to invest in pouring concrete, fixing runways, fixing taxiways. And that that for the most part goes to local contractors, and local contractors, local designers, local attorneys that have to figure out the contracts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, it usually stays within the community. So all that money is fantastic. We also have local restaurants that are coming on site and building some of their facilities, some of the restaurants you and I go to. Everything like I said, everything we look at with a public value eye, and we want to maximize. And it really is, it's not a bad word for us. It's a really good word. We're very parochial.
Mm.
My job also is to not export economic impact. So if you keep the economic impact here, I've done my job correctly.
Mm. Thank you, Mario. I like that word. I think it's a great fit. Being that the Kelley School is certainly in the education business, I'd love to ask you about your advice for young professionals who seek a career in global business. What advice would you share with them and with us?
Well, the Kelley School does it incredibly well, better than I've ever seen anybody do it. There's the technical part of it. Mm. But there's also the tacit part of it. You have to have life experiences. And I tell all my folks that, if it were that easy, if it were just a cookbook, everybody would be Bill Gates, because there's been 100 leadership books written about Bill Gates. Mm. And it's not that easy. It's just life experiences. And when you have the right technical skills and the right life experiences and you put them together, voila, it's magic. You have to have the life experiences, and you guys are fantastic when it comes to both that life experience and the technical skills. So, I'm very proud to be talking to you, because I think incredibly highly of the Kelley School and all of you.
Well, thank you, Mario. We feel that way about you and your leadership and what your organization is doing to add value. And as you mentioned, this transition through COVID, we both spoke earlier about how we'll come out even better. And I'm excited about that, to see more of what better looks like.
Well, it'll be tough, and there'll be a lot of failures, and we'll learn from our failures, but we'll come out of it, and we'll come out of it stronger, and we'll come out of it better, and you'll come out of it with a bunch of lessons. So will I. And then we'll implement these lessons. And come on, let's face it, I've been through a lot of disasters. This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. After this, everything's going to come really easily.
Well, I like the sound of that, and I think many of our colleagues and those listening will as well. But it is good to know that many of us are still making solid efforts, creating value through the pandemic. And Mario, I want to thank you so much for your time today and insights shared. We learned a lot, and again, it was a pleasure to see you and speak with you.
Timothy, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. That's all the time we have for this edition of CIBER Focus. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please let us know at CIBER, that's CIBER, @indiana.edu.